We found jobs for them, and so much of your pay would go to your care, and the rest of it we would give to the child support unit, and they would apply it towards your child support. So it was a win-win situation that was intended. But then we found out that people who didn't want to take care of their kids in the free world still didn't want to take care of them behind bars. And now you're feeding them every day.
Okay, folks, this room turns into a pumpkin in 22 minutes. So we're going to have to ask the candidates, please keep your responses as brief as possible so we can get some more questions in. You want to call for another question?
Yeah, and we're going to have to maybe just get one rebuttal from each person.
30-second rebuttal. Yeah. Yes, sir. Would you like to come up here so we can hear your question?
I got cold nickname.
Okay.
My question, you said earlier, I don't know which one you guys said, but you said that some of the officers that did not do well in the SO side were referred back to the jail. Is that still, what are you going to do about that kind of practice? Is that still going on?
Well, if I was sheriff, if you were promoted and you went to the SO, and I mean, some people can't handle being out on the streets. They work better in the jail. I don't mind sending that person back to the jail. But if they were promoted to the street division to get them out of the jail because there were a problem in the jail, and now they're a problem in the street division, they don't need to be working for either department, the street division or the jail division, either one. They should find other employment.
I think I made reference to, it used to be the practice of some sheriffs that if you had a deputy that was on the street and he messed up on the street, then his punishment would be go back into jail. They have now found out that that is the wrong thing to do because your highest level of liability is in that jail. And so if that person has messed up on the streets, then you make sure that the discipline is taken care of while they're on the street. Don't send them back to jail as a means of discipline. Okay? And my experience in dealing with persons who have worked on the street and worked in the jail, we have found that we get more success out of a deputy who has worked in the jail because it gives them that discipline, it gives them that ability to deal with people because in that jail you don't have a weapon you can result to. You have to use your communicative skills and use the skills that's needed, your interpersonal skills. But you can take a person out of that jail and make him a darn good street officer. But if you get somebody that's a street officer, it's hard to put that person back in the jail because they're not used to confinement, they're not used to the one-on-one and close relationship and the close need for the use of communicative skills that you would have to have inside of the jail. So we see that the success is a lot better going from the jail to the streets than from the streets to the jail.
Mac is absolutely right about that part. That was an old custom with some sheriffs. I've seen it in other areas of the state of Georgia. One of the reasons we have the vacancies we have now is because last year we got rid of 26 people. This week I had to let 2 more go. And I didn't put them back in the jail. One was a jail officer and one was a street officer. They deliberately violated policy and procedure and they were told to leave. And we still are struggling to overcome those vacancies. But I would rather have the vacant position than somebody there that's going to continually cause us problems, either in the jail or on the street. So that is not a practice. One thing we are seeing for the first time in many years, I'm seeing street people take promotions to go back in the jail, which before they would never do. So they're actually, if you offer them a lieutenant, a sergeant, a lieutenant slot in jail, they're going back over there to get that promotion, which to me is a smart thing. We're combining where we're one department, whereas before it was a little bit this side and that side. So I'm pushing that thought forward, and I'm very proud to see these men and women take those promotions and go in there because they bring not only jail experience when they were in there before, but street or court experience back into the jail, and it helps them in their management.
My other question was,
yes, thank you, Mr. Washington.
all right.
First of all, it's not a promotion to be moved from the jail to the street section or to the enforcement. It's a lateral transfer, number one. If an officer receives a lateral transfer and goes over to enforcement, and for whatever reason they mess up or they just don't fit in, it needs to be evaluated on a case-by-case basis. Some people can't function working on the street. They were great jail officers, so you thought they'd be great on the streets, so you sent them over there, but they just couldn't hack it. Well, in that instance, maybe those individuals need to go back to the jail. Sometimes. But when it's a grievous mistake or a grievous error or a grievous misconduct, then they need to be terminated. I do not support the policy or the practice or the procedure of sending somebody back from the street to the jail as punishment. It has been done. I do not support it. Because if they mess up and it's so egregious that they need to be sent back to the jail, they need to be sent on the street. Hey, thank you.
And this is my other question. My other question, because I am a veteran, I'm concerned about the community. I'm concerned about the mental health issue. Prior to the apologize case, Colonel Holmes, I think you said you did one thing for mental health people when you were there. What was the policy when you was there? What was the policy before the apologize case? And what is the policy now?
I can only respond to what the policy and what the practice was prior to the juvenile case.
Right.
I respond to that, but someone else would have to respond to what happened from that point on. But those persons who were brought into the jail, there was supposed to be a screening by the booking staff. There was supposed to be a nurse. There was a nurse stationed in the booking area that would do a medical and mental health assessment of all inmates who come into that jail. If that nurse sees that there was a problem, either mental or medical with that inmate, that nurse had the authority to refuse that inmate, not accept it. And the officer was very seldom go against the nurse because that's what he or she was trained in. So that person would then have to be taken to Georgia Regional or Memorial or some institution where they can give that individual a medical clearance. And then, after they have received the clearance, then they will come back to the jail. And then the process will begin. You do not want to accept the liabilities. Once you accept that inmate, he or she is yours at that point. It's hard to get an officer back when you start having problems with the inmate 20 minutes after they're gone. So we make sure that we take care of that issue before they leave. We don't even accept that person if we know that there's a problem. Someone else can tell you what they did after that point.
All right, we need to, you had 3 questions, we're gonna have to keep these like 45 seconds, because we're gonna get out of this room by 6, I think we're those people. So go ahead.
Currently, as when back then kids were there, there's a form that officers have to fill out when they come in. Was any use of force during this arrest, or is any history of mental health, or is any allegations of mental health issues on that person? That form is there to alert the nurse. There was a nurse there when the G-Bay was there. Basically, that form said no on everything. So we had no tip on that. The G-Bay was very calm for an hour or 2 when he was first there. Only when they tried to take his photograph did he start creating issues. And I can't go into any further detail on that due to the lawsuit. We have a very robust mental health policy now that the consultants brought us that we're looking at. We go in there right off the bat and start asking these questions, which is why I'm pushing forward with us to have a special facility just to handle people that come in with mental health issues, but we don't put them into the general population area.
Yes, ma'am.
I wasn't there when he entered into the facility, but I can tell you there's 2 things that existed. One was a failure of communication, because had the officers or the nurse known that he was mentally ill, I believe that he would have been treated differently. Or had they communicated to the appropriate individuals that handled this duty, they would have known how to deal with it. The second one was a failure of training. The officers were not trained and are not trained to recognize mental illness. That's not part of their job that they go to school for. But the medical staff is, the mental health staff is. However, again, a failure of communication, the word was not communicated appropriately to the right people at the right time, and whenever the incident occurred, it was just a failure all the way around. It affected everybody.
Not like citizens of Calhoun County, is what I'm saying.
Say again?
And the lawsuit is gonna affect citizens of Calhoun.
It will. It's a failure of training and a failure of communication that's gonna impact everybody.
Okay, we have time for maybe one or two, depending on whether, yes, sir.
Changing the status quo. What three specific things will you do in the first, let's say, 90 days are going to review to make the changes that we need to have?
You want to start, Major Middleton, since you haven't started yet, what three things very quickly you
Number one, they've already started doing, it was, my number one thing I was gonna do was get rid of the Horizon, which is currently the privatized medical, agency that we have been utilizing. That was number one. They're gone. Their contract to me is null and void. To me, right now, they should have been gone. But I do understand that the county is currently, doing RFPs to get in a new medical company. So that was number one for me. Number two is getting the Enforcement and Corrections Bureau accredited. I would like to look into getting an accreditation, whether it's ACA, CALEA, the National Sheriff's Association, but I do believe that we need to become an accredited, nationally accredited agency so that we can have good policies that are enforcing the law, that are by federal law, and that will be trained to the employees. And that's the third thing. Train the employees according to the policies and procedures so they'll know what their job is. Give them the tools, the knowledge and experience to do the job the right way. Thank you.
First thing I'm going to do is continue what we're doing now with the mental health issues. I want to push forward with our program, the Gateway, to address the mental health problems we have in that jail. That is one of our main issues facing us currently. Second thing is training is always an issue, but we are providing great training to our people. We're going to continue that. I put in the budget to ask for a training director to oversee recruitment and training, beefing up recruitment considerably. We're trying to hire better qualified personnel to come in there and retain the good people that we do have on board. We're looking for military veterans. We're going to all the recruitment fairs for those individuals that are getting out of the service because they do very well in our environment. The last thing is we will continue to work with our local police departments to fight this crime problem we're having. Any way the sheriff's office can do that without significantly impacting what we have to do, our primary mission of the jail, the courts, and serving civil papers, we're going to be there to help them. I have good friends with all of the chiefs in this community. I've worked with them for many years, and we have confidence in one another to get this job done.
I think on my agenda, the top three, first is there's very little that you can do if you don't have adequate staff. So I think a priority is to make sure that you've got the people in place to do the job. There are a lot of things that need to be done that you can't do if you don't have the people to do it. And that's a typical job to hire at the level of staffing that you need to hire. Every law enforcement agency in the United States has got that problem of hiring staff because we all compete against each other. We used to compete against Metro. That used to be SPD, Savannah Police Department. We would get an increase in salary, and then we would hire people, some of their people from them. And then 6 months later, they will get an increase that's higher than ours, and our people leave and go back to the city. The best thing to do is find a salary that is acceptable for everybody, that is fair, and then you can keep your people from going from one department to the other. We can't fight crime unless we got adequate staff. The first priority is that jail. So, I can't assist Metro or any other agency if I don't have the people to do it. The second thing is to make sure that we get that accreditation, our policies and procedures back on the line and get them where they need to be. And finally, there's been some things said about the, mental health, issues. When I was there, we did do training to identify mental health inmates. We called it CIT training. As a matter of fact, I was one of the first officers in Chatham County to go to Memphis, Tennessee, in order to get that training. They had like
Did you
a
use
model
it?
or scale for CIT training.
Did
And
you
we
pass
brought
it
that
on?
training through NAMI and some other mental health institutions. We were able to bring that training to all of our law enforcement agencies in Chatham County. And we were in the process of training all of our staff in CIT training. Now, I don't know what has happened from that point to this point.
What I will do first off is I will hire a good jail administrator, and I will also hire a good undersheriff. In fact, I have a man in mind, he's got 35 years of experience in law enforcement. He's a civil rights attorney, a constitutional civil rights attorney. Also, all my people, I will make them take constitutional training, both Georgia and the federal constitution. All my officers will start from the beginning and be well trained. They need to completely be well trained and completely be retrained to do certain things, and I'll make sure that it's done. Thank you.
Okay, will the remaining people in the room that have a question, raise your hand. We might have time for two more. Okay, in the back.
This is to Ms. Middleton. In September of 2015, you filed a lawsuit for hostile environment, working environment. Were any of the candidates here at this forum part of that lawsuit, first of all? Also, if you are elected, will you continue with the lawsuit, considering that we the people will wind up having to pay if you should win the case, or do you have another solution?
I did not file a lawsuit. I did make a hostile work environment complaint, and I made it to the chief deputy in writing. And the issue was addressed. I don't know if you knew the person that came in, they did a comprehensive administrative investigation and interviewed staff. And the allegation that I made was supported, and the chief deputy dealt with the individual, and they are no longer employed. As a matter of fact, they had not been employed since last year, I believe, sometime early last year. So I didn't file a lawsuit, just made a complaint.
Okay, anybody else? Yes, sir.
My name is Tom Williams. I'm retired United States Air Force and also retired Department of Labor. And I'm involved with the neighborhood fire association here in Allen. We had a meeting here Thursday night at 4 on that as well. Concerned about what kind of cooperative program you already have that might be in place, planning on putting in place with the sheriff's department and also the neighborhood watch program. And the second area is veterans, and also having a veterans about the Department of Labor. Quite concerned with a lot of veterans that I used to serve in were on the cable system, and that they're trying to find jobs. Like one of the things you mentioned earlier, quite often the situation is once they have that, and especially people who were incarcerated for owing back child support, things of that nature, they were not able to read driver's license, and because all licenses were revoked, were not able to actually get to work because of that, and let alone people like dentists and doctors, all have their license revoked and all, and it's just crazy. Wondering if there's any kind of cooperative program that you may see that as Chatham County Sheriff, that you could perhaps work with our lawmakers and having that kind of thing changed to help the veterans, because obviously it's crazy. We cannot get the work to pay to make the money while you're incarcerated. And you cannot get the work to make the money to pay the job support, right?
I think your point is well made, and you made a point that I think is going to be the critical turning for that question, to answer that question. Most of what you're talking about is going to take legislative change in order to do it. So it's going to have to be changed in Atlanta, in reference to Georgia law in order to do it, because we are kind of held by following whatever state law enables us to do it. Until that happens, there's very little that we can do to address that issue. Now, what I would suggest is, if there's enough interest, our senators and our Congress people to make sure that they can address those concerns, you know. Because, you know, I used to have old friends say your mouth will say anything, but, you know, when you've got to let the rubber meet the road, then we see where you really stand.
I agree with Holmes. The community needs to get together for the veterans' problems, because the way the veterans are treated in the United States right now is a travesty. It really is. And we need to talk to our legislative people and get them to change the laws. Now, what I'm gonna do for the community, I'm going to really work hard again to get the reserve program up and running again, so they can come into the communities and help. And with the neighborhood watch, I'm also gonna start what I call a reserve bailiff program. So this can put some teeth in the neighborhood watch, because these people can come to school.
You'll do
They
more
have to be
research.
vetted just like a regular bailiff, or just like a regular deputy. They have to go to school just like a regular deputy, or just like a regular bailiff. But I will put them out in the community so that they can do more than just pick up the phone and call somebody and wait for a car to show up to help them. This way they can help themselves, and that's what I'm gonna do in our community. Our communities need to work together to help themselves a lot out of this crime problem. It's gonna take the communities and the sheriff's department and the city police. It's gonna take us all.
Just to address that briefly, the reserve program is up and running very well. We've got 25 reserve deputies, and they do a fantastic job. I'm very proud of them. They haven't gone anywhere.
Thank you for a very good panel, very good answers. And at this point in time, will you get the man in the back to select a number, please, for the raffle, and for the, showing up prize, yeah. And if I can ask everybody here that's able to, if you will all, after we announce the number, pick up your chair and fold it up so that we can hand it to somebody in the back.
Let's have a round of applause and give all the